Live and in color from the NBC News radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM, located in beautiful Southern California, and in parallel from the Turfs Up radio studio in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Thanks for tuning in to the Water Zone Show this evening.
Good morning, good evening, no matter wherever you are in this wonderful world. Welcome to the Water Zone Show. I'm Rob Starline with my astute colleague, Mr. You know who he is. I should say his name, but everybody knows it, but I'm going to say it anyways. Mr. Chris Davey. Chris, how you doing?
Mr. Robert Starr, I'm doing great out here on the left coast, and we are we got a great documentary to share with everybody later this afternoon. An interview with the guys who made it. I'm telling everybody that because it's so good. I'm just going to encourage all of our listeners to watch it right now, and listen to our next segment, and then take a look.
Absolutely. I was going to say a guy who doesn't need any introduction, and then move on, but I couldn't stop laughing inside, so I had to stop and tell you. But no, I appreciate everything that you do. You're a gentleman and an expert in what you do, and we're glad to have you. As much as we're glad to have Miss Chris Austin, who's the purveyor of Maven's Notebook. Chris, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. How y'all doing?
Hey, good, Chris.
How's the weather up in your neck of the woods?
Oh, it's getting kind of warm today. It's 83 degrees, but we spent the weekend, my husband and I, we spent the weekend up on the North Coast over there. We drove over to Eureka, and when we were in Eureka, we went to the zoo. Eureka is a very small city, but it has a small zoo. And they have an attraction where you can walk up on this ramp that takes you up into the redwood trees, like 100 feet up above the redwood trees. So it was kind of cool to go see that and to do that. But the northern coast of California it's probably the polar opposite of Southern California. It's like, the interesting thing about California is that nobody really swims in the ocean north of Pismo Beach. I mean, sometimes in San Francisco, if it gets really hot, people might go to the beach, but other than that, they're not out there. And when we were up in Eureka, it's cold at the beach. It was very, very cold at the beach. So, but it's a very nice and unpopulated area and a great place to go for to just soak in some of the natural environment, see some redwoods, eat at the beachside cafe. So if anyone is interested in an adventure into a nice, unpopulated and beautiful part of California, that's where you should go.
So they're not like the crazies back east who jump in the water on New Year's Day, right?
Well, we have a problem on the North Coast with the ocean and what they call sneaker waves, where you'll get just a wave that is bigger and goes farther than all these other waves that have been lapping up on the beach, and they tend to sweep people and animals into the water. Excuse me. And every year people die. They say, do not turn your back on the ocean. So part of it is the ocean is much more dangerous up here north than it is. And there's a big difference between the West Coast and the East Coast, in that the East Coast has the big continental shelf, and you can walk out very far. It's my understanding, and I've seen pictures. I haven't been there, but you can walk very far out into the water without it going over your head. But California is very different. It's very steep. It just drops straight off. We do not have such a thing. So it makes for some very different coasts.
Obviously.
It does indeed. It does indeed, Chris. And you know what? And either of you guys, Chris or Rob, know that the California current runs north to south. So it's cold water from out of the Bay of Alaska that comes down the Canadian coast and then down the Washington, Oregon coast and down the California coast, and it's cold water. That's why people don't swim in California.
Well, we swim in Southern California.
A little bit, yeah.
Not, and somewhat in Santa Barbara and above Santa Barbara, but even like, San Simeon, it's kind of getting into that, where the weather's just colder. But yeah, in Southern California, when it's hot, everyone goes to the beach, and there are lifeguards all up and down the coast in Southern California. But there are no lifeguards in Northern California because people don't go swimming at the beach. So if you're swimming and you get into trouble, it usually has some pretty bad outcomes for that.
Well, in San Simeon, I see lots of sea lions and things, and they got thick, thick bodies that they can take the temperature. They have a few sites that you can stop off the highway to see them up there. So yeah, it's much colder up there. Totally.
Yeah. So I guess let's get into all the good news of the week, and I guess the big news of this week was the big news of last week, which was Governor Newsom. I have to say I did not see this one coming, but he has proposed a budget trailer bill that would make it a lot easier to build the Delta Tunnel. And this predictably ignited a firestorm, and it's really lit a fire under the opposition to the tunnel. So we'll see how this all works out for him. I am kind of a believer that, especially with these controversial projects, that you really need to follow the rules. I don't know. I kind of grew up believing that if the rules are laid out and you follow the rules, then you should generally expect a good outcome. But when you start going around the rules, I don't think that's a good thing. And unfortunately, I think Newsom's taking a lead in kind of what's going on nationally, where think people are just going ahead and doing things without respect to what the proper process is. We'll see how that works out.
Well, are you saying it's political? Because rumors have he wants to run for president.
I don't think it has anything. I don't really have anything to weigh in on whether or not he wants to run for president, and I don't think forcing this project through or not forcing this project through would affect that if he were to choose to do so. I think this is more, this project has been under review. It and its predecessors has been under review pretty much since Maven's Notebook began. As a matter of fact, Maven's Notebook began with covering the public sessions for the Bay Delta Conservation Plan, which came about in Governor Schwarzenegger's term. So we've gone through Governor Schwarzenegger, Governor Brown, and now we're into Governor Newsom. And I think that for all the reasons why the state wants to build this project, I think there's just some frustrations, and they just want to go ahead and get it done.
Yeah. Well, I think there's rules and regulations that happen. I think maybe some of them need to be updated where you can streamline some of them. But when you streamline it, you got to make sure you keep all the ones that are going to be important rules and regulations within them to make sure people follow a concise process that takes into account safety, environment, all of those things. I think there's ways to streamline things, but again, you got to be careful what you streamline, because you don't want. Yeah, go ahead.
And I think streamlining a controversial project is just opening it up for a lot of criticism, and a lot of litigation. And I think it's quite possible the litigation that's going to come out of this is probably going to be worse for the project than if they had just tried to continue. Well, they are still continuing working through the permitting process, but I don't. I think it's going to just extend the timeline, not improve it. If he's able to do this. Now, this budget trailer bill, I mean, this is kind of like the thing that they do on the federal level, where they just like stick things in a bill unrelated to that bill, but it gets stuck in the bill, and you have to vote on the whole dang thing, including maybe these things that aren't related but are still in there, and that's how things get passed sometimes. And so this is, kind of the state version of that. It's sort of an end run around the public process. Because if this was proposed as a piece of legislation, then it would go to committee and there would be opportunities for the public to weigh in. But using this method, it just kind of gets in there, and then here comes the budget bill, and you must either, approve this budget or not approve this budget. And you could see it. You can imagine how it would play out in the state as much as it's playing out in, at the federal level. So it's like we'll see how it works. I'm not very optimistic, I think. And, I think that, the problem is, not the problem, but the thing is that the people who are against projects are very vocal, and they're very well organized. And they marshal their troops, and they show up at all these places and state their opposition to the project. And we have decision makers that are sitting there that are listening to those things. And so the people who are for these projects really need to be showing up in the same way. They need to be marshaling their troops and showing up and saying, no, we want this project, we need this project, and here's why. And if the people who are for projects are silent and they don't show up, then I think it's very hard for decision makers in the face of, all this public opposition and no one speaking for the other side to make a decision, that would be favorable to that project. It's hard to, it's not hard to understand why that would be hard for them, or, so it's, if people are for projects, they really need to show up and speak up for those projects as much as those who are not for those projects.
So true. Absolutely true. Well, Chris, let me ask you if we can change the subject just a little bit, because I was reading on the NOAA site, right? And it's on Maven's notebook too. You posted it on there, but from the NOAA site, or actually the National Integrated Drought Information System, or NIDIS. Just this combination of, we had a great winter, right? We had near normal, or in some cases rather, and in some places,
pretty decent. A decent winter, yeah.
Decent winter, above normal, but, a little less precipitation in the spring. And, of course, here in the West, these very high temperatures. And that combination, I guess, is just causing just a rapid melt of the snowpack.
Yep, and, this is problematic. And this is one of the things that has been happening most years as they're tracking this. But yes, the snow melt this year is outpacing even what it has been in the past. And what this does is it just, all that snow melt, we're used to that snow melting and in giving a lot of time through the summer, so there's water in the rivers and people can keep drawing their water. And what this means is those rivers the flows are going to be down much sooner than they otherwise would be. And this becomes very challenging for folks, because if you have a water right in California, You have a right to draw water from a particular waterway. You have a rate at which you're going to draw it and the maximum amount you plan to draw, and a time of year that you are going to be, that this right would be active. So if your water right is, set to come on later in the year and the snow melt's all gone, you're out of luck. Unfortunately, the way that our water rights work. And a lot of this is going to, cause some pretty uncomfortable adjustment in terms of climate change as this type of thing accelerates. And we're going to find, water rights that are going to, come into play that are not going to have any water there when they go to get it. So it's going to be a lot of adjustment ahead. But and also too, the hydropower goes down if all the water is flowed out the streams. There's less hydropower, and the landscape just starts drying out all that much quicker, which is not good for wildfires. So, and also too, when it's hot, the rivers and streams, the water evaporates sometimes and doesn't come off as runoff. So, there's just some loss of water in that way as well. Not good.
So the people who have those old water rights, like you said, at the end of the season or whatever, when it gets warm and everybody else is drawn upon it, they're left with practically nothing. And there's no way to balance that out. I mean, the state doesn't talk about any way to make it fair for everybody to change the law.
The water rights in California, as in most of the West, are pretty complex things. And, when you talk about balancing out, what you're really saying is somebody else with senior water rights gives up some of their water for somebody else. That doesn't come easily. It doesn't come without pay because, the person giving the water would most likely expect to be paid for it. I mean, we haven't quite discussed as a state how we're going to deal with this reality that's coming into view. That has not been discussed yet. And that's going to be a bit of a challenge, when people get ready to start talking about that. But yeah, we haven't gotten there yet. The State Water Board a few years ago wanted to put forth a policy where they wanted, for people applying for new water rights, they wanted them to start using climate change modeling on their water availability analysis so that they could really actually determine if there would be water for their project there, should they build it. You would think that people might want to know that before they spend hundreds of thousands, perhaps $1 million or $2 million on some water diversion. They might be interested in knowing if that there's going to be water there, to be had. Right. Because just because you build something doesn't mean water will magically show up there. And there was quite an uproar about that. Some of it is, people just don't like change, and some, I guess, question, whether that's something they need to worry about. But if you look at all the graphs and all the data, it most definitely is something you need to worry about. But, folks have their own views on this sometimes.
Another thing you had written, change the subject a little bit. It's been reported, or you report, that there's a lot of bacteria now in the oceans. I know I saw an article in the newspaper about the sewage that are coming from Mexico into California. But now there's a lot.
Tijuana.
Yeah. So what's with all these bacteria hotspots cropping around from San Diego and San Luis Obispo and all of that.
Well, so some of the dirty beaches, yeah, surf writer it is, and also Heal the Bay does a report every year about the beaches and how clean they are. A lot of stormwater systems in California and in Southern California in particular still kind of flow out to sea. And that stormwater washing things off the sidewalks and city streets, so that comes with a lot of oil and nasty stuff. It also comes with dog poop and other sorts of things that get washed into the ocean. How clean a beach is generally connected to how well the stormwater is filtered that flows into that area. And we sure need to do something to keep trash and stuff out of the ocean. One of the ways that everybody can do that, at least anybody living in near any coastal area, is to just make sure there's no trash around. And if you see trash, pick it up, because that trash doesn't disappear. It goes away. It's generally going to get flushed into the ocean. And if you see all the stuff that comes out of the LA River, they have a boom there to catch it, to catch some of the stuff. I don't think they can catch it all, but it is quite tremendous. Now, what's going on in Tijuana is a little different. Tijuana has a wastewater plant, and it gets overwhelmed and often, and it washes some very stinky raw sewage down the Tijuana River. And I actually found a picture of the Tijuana River a few months ago, and I was surprised. So I know with folks, especially if they don't live in Southern California, I say Tijuana River, you're probably thinking like water and some dirt banks and maybe some trees around, that kind of thing. No, it's a cement channel that goes out that just washes everything straight out to sea. And there's a town there called Imperial Beach. It's right there on the border, and I guess the smell of the raw sewage has been just terrible. It inundates the whole town, and they've been trying to work on this problem forever. What it really takes is, Mexico needs to upgrade the wastewater plant, and in general, we usually end up having to give them some money to do so, because Tijuana does not have a lot of funds to do these sorts of things. And if we want it cleaned up, then we best just go in there and do it ourselves. And so they're working on getting this sewage plant back in operation and doing a job. It's been an ongoing story for, oh gosh, I got to think at least a year and a half now. Yeah. Just ongoing stuff. So we'll see how it works out. I feel for those people living down there that have to deal with these pretty gnarly smells.
Yeah, I know when I worked down there for another company years and years ago, the sanitation sewage was poor. You use the restroom, and you don't throw the toilet paper in the toilet. You throw it in the basket next to it, because you couldn't. Yeah. They didn't want you to flush it down, so it's pretty bad. Well, anyway, Chris, we're glad you're back. I'm glad your mom's doing good, and we sure miss you, and we appreciate all the news that you bring to us on a weekly basis. And for our listeners, please go to mavensnotebook.com, become a subscriber to it. You get all this information every single day. Again, I don't know how she does it. She has magic fingers and a magic computer. I think maybe she talks fast and it does it by that way, typing. But she's amazing. And you can also go to that site if you like and be a sponsor of the show. It's great. And she has some other things on. If you take a look at that, she has some things about a segment on exploring the archives, California Water Explained, find the next great readed water shelf. I know she has a thing with one of our friends who does that, and that's awesome. And it's a lot of information for you. So I know Chris Davey and I always tell everybody, hey, you want to get the best in the news on water? Go to Maven's Notebook. And everybody knows her. Everyone's of our guests every time. I go, oh, yeah, we know Chris Willis. So she's a great guy, great lady. So anyway, thanks a lot. We'll see you next week. And you have a good, safe weekend and stay. Well, it's cool you said where you are, but hopefully you'll get some nice weather that's comfortable. Let's just say it that way.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good night. All right, we're going to take a little commercial break, and as Mr. Davey said, we have something special on a documentary that we're bringing some of the people in who've done this, and it's pretty interesting. And so stick around, and you'll hear all about it. We'll be right back.
KCAA. Water is one of the biggest expenses for communities, HOAs, universities, golf courses, and resorts. So keeping those costs under control, especially when rates are increasing while water supplies are being reduced, are often essential to a customer's survival. Managing water requires multiple skills, which is why it's been complicated and difficult until now. AquaTrack brings multiple skills and technologies together to help large system users conserve outdoor water and improve the health of their landscapes. AquaTrack's professionals are certified landscape water managers and certified landscape irrigation auditors. The company offers audit services, upgrade advice, technical expertise, and water use monitoring. We already manage irrigation water for the largest homeowner associations in Arizona, and we're prepared to bring our knowledge and experience to help others, including landscapers and designers. Give us a call and hear how AquaTrack saved one HOA some 430 million gallons of water and $200,000 in annual water expenses. AquaTrack is Arizona-based, and you can reach us at 623-594-8689. That's 623-594-8689.
One of the most time-saving tools I found for my customers is our app and our e-commerce feature. So customers actually have the ability to view all of their quotes in one place. If you contact your Site One seller, you'll be able to log into your account and see all your quotes in one place. And instead of jumping on the phone or waiting for your seller to call you back, you can approve it right from the website, and it will send a message to your sales rep to get it on order and reserve the material. Customers can learn more about these tools at their Site One branch, from their local seller, from their local CX specialist, and from SiteOne.com or by downloading the Site One app.
KCAA.
All right, welcome back to the Water Zone for the second half. We appreciate all of you staying tuned and listening to this. This is a great show we got going here. We have a little summary I'll tell you about what's up next, and it's a group of people that came together, and they'll tell you the story about this. They have an award-winning new documentary called Magi, and it reveals harsh realities of the growing global water crisis through experts and activists across 4 continents, where runner and advocate Leo Gribaldi, embarks on 5 physical challenges to raise money for life-saving water projects, beginning in Uganda. The film creates a sense of urgency for citizens worldwide to be aware that we have a water crisis today, and it covers the political ramifications of water scarcity and degradation in places like Nepal and Jordan, and preserving natives' sacred springs in Arizona in the Grand Canyon. The U.S. premiere will be launched on June 19th this year on a new streaming platform called Globehouse. Make sure that's correct. All right, we're going to bring these 3 people that are going to be on the show together, and they're really excellent people. And we have a gentleman named Leo Gripari, and he's a pioneering entrepreneur and co-founder of the Gorilla brand, a sustainable streetwear company that uses filmmaking to drive change in gorilla conservation and community development. We have Miss Nubia Duvall Wilson. She's a nationally recognized journalist, published author, publicist, and producer. We also have David Finn, who founded Finnward Blackwell Enterprises in 2022. Based in New York City, Finnward Blackwell Enterprises was formed to create opportunities for the underserved in TV and film. And so we're going to bring these people on. And question for all 3 of you. How did you 3 come together? And Nubia, I think you can share that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rob and Chris, for having us on. So what's crazy is Leo and I, even though he's all the way across in Greece and I'm here right outside of New York City in South Orange, New Jersey, we had a mutual friend, Diana Edelman in New York. And I'm the co-founder of Star Fury Productions. We package, pitch, develop, and distribute content from content creators all over the country. And Diana said, you know what? My friend has this amazing documentary named Maggie, called Maggie, and I know that you're going to love this film. And we did. And we decided that we wanted to work with Leo to help distribute it here in the US. And another one of our partners at Star Fury is David Finn. And David Finn is premiering Globehouse, a new streaming platform. And we realized that this was going to be a good opportunity for Maggie because it's a film that has a social impact. Star Fury cares about social impact. And I'll let Dave talk about Globehouse, but there's just so much synergy between the three of us, and we're super excited.
So basically, the reason why this was such a perfect fit, Globehouse is a distributing platform that we basically have a core principle. It's inform, it's inspire, and then it's integrate the knowledge that we give our consumers how they can use it in their lifestyle. So basically, our whole existence is to just help people. So when we came across this documentary, it was like the perfect match because it was already in line with our core principles. So that's why we said, okay, the first place we'll distribute it is going to be on Globehouse, and that'll be on June 19th this year.
The way that we ended up basically being connected in New York specifically is we did a round of private viewings, one of them being in New York, a couple of them in LA on 2 nights, and one in London as well as a couple over here in Greece. So it was great to get the exposure and be able to invite some key people, and one of these was obviously Diana, and then made the connection through to you guys. So super excited to have this opportunity to be able to get Maggie out there and really get it in front of as many eyes as possible.
We appreciate all three of you coming on the show. Lou, I have a couple questions for you, and so does Chris. Have you always done extreme sports?
I wouldn't say I've always done extreme sports. I've definitely always loved the outdoors growing up. I always used to love spending time snowboarding in the summers, water skiing, wakeboarding, and generally loved the outdoors. So I know there's a lot of people out there doing a lot bigger and more life-threatening extreme sports than I do within the film of Maggie. But I really was able to use it as a platform myself and be able to push myself out there to essentially fundraise for these water projects in Uganda.
So what has running done for your life?
Running is something, again, that I guess came into my life about 3 or 4 years ago. I used to hate running, and I used to run about 2 kilometers, and I never wanted to run anything longer. And in my mind, I'd never thought or even had this urge to go out and try and do a marathon, try and do an ultra marathon. But a few years back, I did some fundraising, and I did a 100-kilometer trek across the Great Wall of China, raising funds for addiction. And then fast track a few years forward, I, along with our brand, that gorilla brand, ended up in Uganda and wanted to go and do some fundraising projects for the communities out there in Uganda that are close to the endangered gorillas habitat. And using running as a challenge and a way for me to go out there within my network of friends and family and contacts who knew that I didn't like running. And it was a great way to basically be able to go out there and fundraise and also push and prove to myself that, you can actually push yourself to do things that you otherwise thought that you wouldn't be able to. And actually, I ended up really loving running, and it has become a great and important part of my life. I've got a marathon on Sunday as well, which I'm kind of looking forward to. Looking forward to finishing, actually.
Well, I have you on the video screen, and you look pretty fit. I mean, I tell my wife tells me I need to get in better shape. I go, I'm round. I have a shape, and and my extreme sport is taking a fork and putting it to my mouth, and I'm really good at that stuff. Chris joined in. Sorry.
I will. Thanks. Hey, Dave, Nubia, and Leo, welcome to the Water Zone. It's great to have you here. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure.
You got it. Leo, I'm gonna ask you a quick question here, and I know we want to talk about the film Maji in just a little bit and the critical issues around the water crisis that is worldwide these days, and how we can bring awareness to that and make sure that the world understands that it is critical, and it is now. But right before that, I want to talk to you, Leo. I want to ask you about that Gorilla brand, right? And kind of how did you get that started, and what's the connection between a sportswear company and a film called Maji?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So we launched that Gorilla brand in 2019, myself and my wife. And the brand has three pillars. It's based around fashion, it's based around fundraising adventures, and it's based around film. So those are the three pillars of the brand. And all of those pillars are all about inspiring impact and carrying out impact within the communities that are very close to the endangered mountain gorillas. So on the product side of things, everything that we sell, we give a donation to a charity called the Gorilla Organization. Through our fundraising adventures, marathons, hikes, long distance hikes, marathons, ultra marathons, we fundraise for certain projects, whether it be water, sanitation, solar, or education projects. And then in and amongst that as well, we create films. So we create short documentaries and also our feature-length documentary, which is Maji. And we really use film as a way of telling very important stories that we believe in, very important stories that we think that our viewers should watch, and really try to inspire people to kind of get out there and be positive and be active, and everyone can make a difference. And there's so many different global aspects of whether it's water, so many different things that one can go out there and have a positive impact for. We really try to inspire people through film to do that.
Well, we'll click into Dave and Nubia in just a minute to find out more about their perspective about the film. But as we've always been saying, this is a global issue, right? And so I did watch a part of the clip, of course, and now you've got all places all over the world. How did you pick those spots? What was important about those spots that made you focus in to those locations?
Yeah, so one of the main ones was obviously the ultra in Uganda. I wanted to be doing a run within the community and being able to do a run in the specific place that we were doing the fundraising for the water projects, which I'm very happy to say are now fully completed, which is the update from the end of the film. So we've reached around 15,000 people with water facilities now, which we're very, very happy with. And then it was essentially looking at different places that I could build out the challenges. We did Iceland, we did Nepal, we did Jordan, we did Uganda, and obviously the Grand Canyon. And it was a mixing of, number one, what were the most suitable challenges that I could build that were worthy enough to go out there and fundraise for, and then paired with the great relationship that I have with the director, Charlie Doherty, who every single location that I presented to him, he came back and he was like, Leo, this works. Like Iceland, it works. Nepal, it works. Like the cleanup of the Bagmati River, fantastic. The Grand Canyon, everything that's going on around the Grand Canyon and in the wider area. So it was really like that joint effort between the creativity of the director, me building these locations, and us just really working out, this just works fantastically well. Myself being used as the thread to weave together the whole story of Maji, essentially.
All right, Leo. So, keeping on the global theme here and all the locations that you just talked about. First of all, it's got to be exciting to have done this film in all those different locations. But anybody who's viewing this film when it comes out, we can talk about that. Nubia, I think you're going to chat to us about when the film is going to be released and where people can see it. But Leo, from your perspective, people watching this film, what are they going to learn about the global water crisis?
Yeah, I think one of the important things is the viewers will be able to realize that individuals can make a difference as well for certain communities. And we have the ability through this film to be able to show that there's a whole variety of different locations, whether it be from the Grand Canyon all the way over to Nepal, different side of the world, that no matter where you look, in most places there is a crisis to do with water, and it didn't take too much delving into the research for our film, for the film crew and for the director Charlie and Tom and all of their research to really find these stories, find people to talk to, and build out the film that we were able to build with some really incredible people throughout the way. And the journey and the people that we met in every single location all became part of our community, and really the doors were opened incredibly well by everyone that we approached. So I think the viewers will really see that, you know, it is a very important issue that's going on at the moment. You look beyond your own back door, there is probably some kind of water issue there. And I think that's something that we were able to tell with a variety of just random locations around the world that aren't linked in with each other. They are actually linked in through a water crisis that we will share.
Yeah, Leo, part of our tagline really for the Water Zone is that Rob and I have talked about before and with our guests is, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, water was a news item, but it was an occasional news item. It was every once in a while you heard about a drought, you heard about whatever happened in Michigan or in Mississippi with the water. But today, water is the news. I mean, you can't turn on anything without hearing a news story. So it is vitally important for everyone to understand the timeliness of this and the criticalness of this. Any thoughts from you, Leo, on how the film really relates and brings the criticalness of it, the action, the now, the immediate presence to the viewers? I think it's probably going to do a good job of that, at least from what I saw in the clip.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you look at the clips from the Grand Canyon or the segments from the Grand Canyon, and you look at Nepal, for instance, all of the water waste that's being plunged into the Bagmati River and all of the efforts that are going in there to clean it up, and then you pair it with so there you have water, but you have it extremely polluted. In Uganda, where we did the water projects, the communities are surrounded by lakes. But because of the nature of the environment there, a lot of the communities are built up into the hills, so there's no access to safe water. So that's where us as a brand, as that Gorilla brand, we're trying to provide water for these communities. You go into Jordan, you go into all of the locations that we shot in, and you really see the depth and the depth and urgency of the problem out there.
When you talked about the village in the Gwanda village that you raised money for their support, can you give us an update? I mean, what's happening there? Is there good news?
Yeah, so it's great. I mean, it's basically in and around the gorillas' habitat. The endangered mountain gorillas live in two locations. They're in, three locations: Uganda, Rwanda, and Congo, but two forests. And the projects that we do are around the Bwindi impenetrable forest. We've reached around 25 communities. We've reached over 15,000 people. We've provided communities with water whereby the children don't need to go and walk for 2 hours in the morning, and they now get to go to school. And the knock-on effects has been a great results from the medical facilities. There's less waterborne illnesses, and actually the water projects is just where we started. So through our Windy community projects, as we call them, and our partners, the Gorilla organization, who help us implement these projects over there on the ground, we've now done sanitation projects in 16 schools where we've reached 5,000 kids, essentially building out cubicles. We've done solar energy projects in 2 schools and gorilla ranger outposts. And this now event that we're doing on Sunday is a huge community-based event in Lake Annecy, where we're doing up to a marathon distance. And we're actually building a school this year in a community very close to the gorillas' habitat. And that's bringing together all of these aspects that we've done: water, sanitation, solar, and education. So it's really been able to build from Magi, which all the viewers will see is me, myself, and I out there doing my challenges alone fundraising. However, a few years on, we've now built them out, and we've built out the extra elements of our impact over there. And we've now reached about 25,000 people in total and raised over half a million euros so far. which has been great. And the 25,000 people is the direct beneficiaries, and the number, if you convert that into also the extra people that we've helped, the indirect beneficiaries, it actually reaches over like 130, 140,000 people. So we're very proud of it. We're very happy. There's still always work to be done, and we'll continue to be doing lots more water projects specifically in the future.
I have a couple of questions for David and Nubia. Nubia, how did you decide to partner with Globehouse as the premier platform for the documentary?
Yeah, it's a great question. First I want to say that I think after watching this documentary, which made me very emotional, Leo just did an amazing job telling this story. I realized we take having access to fresh water for granted, especially here in America. And when I think about a lot of the mission and goals for Leo when it comes to educating audiences on the water crisis and being aware, to his point, that we need community, we need people to be aware, right, to be aware of the reality of our water crisis across the world, and also to be dedicated to doing something about it and to take action with community. And those are things that Globehouse embodies with the mission of their content, the inspiring, the transforming, and being informative to its audiences. Those pillars line up very well with this film. And those are pillars that Star Fury has as well in our mission and vision for the type of content that we want to represent. So the synergy was just there, and I'm just happy that the stars aligned. And as Dave said, it's going to be launching, premiering June 19th. I'm sure you might want to say a few more words on that. But
yeah, Dave, tell us more about the Globehouse streaming platform. Tell me.
Well, we basically looked at the media landscape and of all the different platforms and all the different streaming companies that are out there, and we noticed that most of them are just into entertaining, whether it's get a real catchy jingle going where people just look or just how would you say consuming content rather than just learning or being engaged. And at the same time, as we all know, we can look around the world, it's very serious out here right now. There's a lot going on in this world, and it's good to just to be entertained, to escape for a while, but there has to be a place where it's just more than just escaping. We wanted to do something, because everyone, I think, before you leave this place, this world that we live in, should make a mark in some way, shape, or form to make it better. So we figured if we had a platform that really engaged with people by giving them real information, useful information, also inspiring them, and then showing them how to implement that inspiration, that would be a win-win. You know what I mean? So that's why that's what really motivated our concept. And then, our belief in God and so forth, that's really was our driving force. So when we came across Leo and what he was doing, we was like, wow, this is definitely God inspired. No one can do all this unless, they were like divinely inspired to do something of such sacrifice. You know what I mean? It takes a lot of humility and so forth. And that's why we said this will be one of our main documentaries we're going to push to really launch the platform.
Well, I can tell you just from listening to all three of you how much passion you have for this thing, and that's an important factor. Have you ever considered joining things like with the United Nations and bigger organizations to help promote what you're doing and get them on your side to boost knowledge to the rest of the world about this?
I would say yes, definitely. But one thing I learned from my mentor, Jimmy Blackstone, you have to always take the first step. Before you go out and look for help and all that, you have to make the first step, make the first impact. And then, there's a passage in the Bible that says, write the vision, make it plain, and they will follow. So we try to lead by example first. And then I assume everything else will just fall into place once everyone sees you making that first step.
Good point. Chris?
Yeah, so I'm gonna ask Nubia if you would, while we're waiting for June 19th to come around, if people want to see the clip, where can they go to watch that, Nubia?
Oh yeah, well, you could go to that Gorilla Brand's website and see the trailer directly there. Leo, the website is it thatgorillabrand.com?
Thatgorillabrand.com. You go to the film section, and then you can see our short documentary. You can see the brand pillars. You can see the inspiring impact, various different short little pieces that we've done, and the trailer as well.
Yeah, and then you get to look at some cool clothes too.
There you go.
And Leo, on some of the places that you've done, like the Grand Canyon, Iceland, Nepal, Jordan Desert, can you give a little descriptions of what took place at those events?
So I did 100-kilometer rim to rim to rim of the Grand Canyon. For some reason, I thought that just the rim to rim wasn't enough, so I decided to get to the other side and turn around and come back. That was quite just a incredible challenge on so many levels. The power of the Grand Canyon. I don't know if any of you have had the luxury to be able to hike down into that canyon, but wow, what a place. So
how long did that take?
That was basically 3 days, 3-4 days. Yeah. 100K. So that was incredible. And actually that was just after America had opened its borders after COVID, and it was empty, which is just like unheard of in the Grand Canyon. So we went points where we had 6-7 hours without seeing people, which was quite phenomenal. So yeah, that was the Grand Canyon. I did my first marathon alone in Iceland in the middle of October. A huge Atlantic storm had just gone through there a week before, so fortunately it hadn't been cancelled. Then I did a marathon in the desert in Jordan on sand, and that was brutal, absolutely horrific. I don't recommend it to anyone. The scenery was stunning, but the pain was equally as awful. I did Madi Himal in Nepal. That was a very challenging event for certain circumstances that had gone on at home with my wife's father, who was very unwell at that time. But it was decided that collectively that I needed to push through and go and do this challenge. And then unfortunately a few weeks after, he passed away. So that was a whole very challenging period. We did an ultra in Uganda with the community, which was a really special event, having all of the people that I was doing these water projects for also training, building themselves up to doing the ultra out there. And essentially there we ran around this beautiful lake, 7 volcanoes in the background, gorilla habitats on either side, amazing red earth, small villages around, the communities running out, girls joining us running, and they're not normally allowed to run in those communities. And they were inspired by one of the girls that was running with us, a lady from Montana. So yeah, those I think I've mentioned all of them. Nepal, yeah, that was all of them. Yeah. So really,
you must have a lot of shoes.
Yeah, I do.
You got
a lot of ruined shoes.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Well, we appreciate, you guys are doing something that's pretty awesome. And, so you talk the talk, you do it. And that's an important factor. And the world needs to hear more of what you guys are doing. And we appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. Chris, any words?
No, I appreciate it very much. You guys coming on. As Rob knows, Leo, I'm a bit of a runner myself. 3K is my race. Nice. And I'm also British. I'm from Colchester, if you know where that
nice.
is. And,
yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Nice.
Yep. Been here in the United States since I was about this high. So.
Oh, really? Okay. Nice.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on, and Anubia and Dave, you too as well.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
GlobeHouseTV.com. Coming soon.
We're back, and Chris, that was pretty interesting, and I know you have a documentary, and I have too, and it's pretty awesome.
Well, yeah, it's a little fair. We got a little sneak peek at it all, but I just recommend the listeners to go to thatgorillabrand.com to view that. There's also another short film on there called The Heart of Bawandi. Just a great man. You just watch. I don't know if you watched it, Rob, but it is absolutely fantastic, buddy.
Yep, they did. The filmmaker did a great job. Great. I mean, I can't imagine going through the editing and doing all of that, but they must have had a lot of film to do that. But it was really awesome.
Yeah.
So that was pretty good. Well, we got something coming up in July, and it'll be July 17th. It will be our 500th show and our 10th year anniversary. So we're going to start telling you about what plans we have starting next week, and there'll be some surprises for everybody, and we're looking forward to that. Right, Chris?
All right, absolutely. Yeah, buddy. So what do we say at the end of every show?
Well, I'll let you start it off.
Let's please help keep our planet
blue. Because if you like blue or in green, you got to have both. Thanks, everybody. You have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
NBC